Today we are going to talk about healing and if it's possible to reparent yourself. Um, the way our parents or carers brought us up can have an impact in the way that we live our lives as adults. And that's no secret, isn't it? We know that. Of course, not all parenting left scars, but despite what many people might believe, even if you had a loving and nurturing upbringing, that you felt very safe and very loved, you can still bear within you like hidden wounds or hidden unhealthy behaviors from those early years without even realizing it, but they are impacting your life now as an adult. My therapist at the time, she shared with me this quote, and she didn't remember who the author was of this quote is. And I've tried to look it online and I couldn't find it. But this quote stuck with me. And has been like over 12 years ago when I went to the therapist to treat my postnatal depression. And the quote is, "Parenting is like walking in the snow. You can't help but leaving footprints." And that quote stuck with me because it made me realize that even if I try to do my best not to repeat the patterns and the cycle with my children, I will leave footprints on them. I can't help it because it's a learning process. So that's why I wanted to take out of this training today. As the quote says, remember, even though you do everything by the book, which there is no book in parenting, even that you do everything in your best ability, you can't help but leaving imprints in your children. It's like walking in the snow. You can't help but leave footprints. So I wanted to remember this throughout this training. When your mind starts giving all these thoughts that, oh, I'm a terrible mother, I'm doing this wrong. Okay, I don't want you to think that. So whether our parents realize it or not, or whether we realize it or not, we intentionally hurt our children. They left imprints in us. We are leaving imprints in our children. But in extreme cases of childhood trauma, which can be the result of neglect, physical and emotional abuse, narcissistic parenting, or not having our basic needs met, those wounds are very much in us still as adults and impacting the way we behave as adults, and also impacting the way we accept ourselves, right? Part of the process of self-healing, and this is a process of self-healing, reparenting, it's a process of self-healing, is to be conscious and aware that of these wounds that we might be carrying and that stem from our early upbringing. And instead of blaming our parents or our carers for the way they brought us up and the trauma that was inflicted in us, we realize that we have a choice, right? We have the choice to forgive them for acting the way that they did because they behaved with what they knew, with what they had at the time, at the best of their own ability. They didn't know any better. And then we forgive ourselves for believing that anything that happened to us was our fault. it's important that we forgive ourselves as well, because there is this blame in ourselves, this guilt that it was somehow our fault. And I know this too well, because as a childhood abuse survivor, I carried with me for the longest time this burden that I was to blame for it, that she was right. If I was abused, if I was beaten up and all of those things, it happened because I deserved it, because I did something. So it's important that we forgive ourselves for believing that any of this was our fault. And then we also have the choice to accept that whatever happened to us, it was a part of our journey as humans and as soul beings. And as much it wasn't fair or healthy, it actually propelled us to grow at a human and soul level. It propelled us to try and be better, do better. If not for ourselves, for our children. Right? So if we forgive and we accept ourselves, and if we are open to it, we then have the choice of reparenting ourselves. As children, we were very much vulnerable, right? And dependent on our parent or our carers to fulfill our basic survival needs. Not only the external needs of shelter, hygiene, food, but also the very basic emotional need of love. Because when we don't feel that we were loved, we felt that we were in danger, that we might die, right? But those basic needs sometimes are not met. But as adults, we can choose to take responsibility for the parenting role, not take responsibility for what happened, right? No, that's not our fault. But as adults, we can take this responsibility for healing. What happened to us is not our fault, but it's our responsibility now to do our own inner healing, to parent ourselves, to take the power, back to us and take on this parenting role and then fulfill the needs that weren't met when we were growing up and left these wounded inner child inside of us screaming for help. And that can look like developing skills to manage, for instance, our relationship with others, our relationship with ourselves, which many of us struggle with, to set healthy boundaries and not be a people's pleaser, to try and cope positively when life challenges happen, and even to take care of ourselves on a deeper level, on a more emotion and spiritual level. So it can look like that, reparenting ourselves. But unfortunately, these skills are not innate in us as humans, especially if our parents or our carers were not able to model these behaviors or set expectations for us in this sense. So we have to consciously make the decision to learn these skills, to grow on an emotional intelligence level, which so many of us lack due to these things that happened, right? So basically, reparenting ourselves is basically tending to our wounded inner child And by doing that, it opens the opportunity to nurture and love ourselves, to get curious about ourselves, to befriend our shadows, our hidden shadows, both the golden shadows and the dark shadows, and explore our inner feelings with honesty and tend to any triggers that we then start to get the awareness that awaken these uncomfortable feelings in us. And anyone who struggles to, for instance, be committed to a relationship or to keep friendships, anyone who struggles to trust others and themselves, anyone who struggles to open up to others, or anyone who constantly seeks approval and validation from other people, or that feels like an outcast, that they have this feeling that they don't belong either to their family, to a family unit, or to a friendship circle. You know, this feeling of not belonging. So people who struggle with any of this can absolutely benefit from reparenting themselves and embarking on this healing journey. Because reparenting helps us to understand ourselves better. You know, it helps us to connect and to communicate with ourselves with compassion, and allow us to love, to nurture, to accept ourselves, and not only that, but also our feelings and our thoughts. And so choosing to reparent yourself will ultimately help you to navigate your life with more ease, with healthier relationships and boundaries, and without expectations or that need for external validation to know that you're worthy and that you are enough and that you are loved. Yeah, so reparenting can allow all of this to happen. So now you might be asking, how do I do that? What areas of my life should I focus first? And I'll get through some of the 5 key areas that you can start working on your reparenting. But it's important to understand first that just like healing and reparenting, it's a form of healing. It's a process of unlearning. So it is important that you don't get into any of this, for instance, these key areas, with the expectation of something to happen. Just be open to it.